Hello and welcome back to another Figma tutorial. So in this one, we'll be creating a very simple accordion component, and we will also be adding component interactions so that for any instance of this component, you can just click to expand and collapse it. And lastly, we will also be using the Google Sheets Sync plugin to sync in real data. So to get started, let's just create a new Figma file. And in case you do not know, there is a quick Figma shortcut. You can just type in figma.new in the browser line, and that's just a very fast way to create a new file. There are a few things that I already have in my file. So I have this palette for the gray colors, and I use the Styler plugin to turn them into color styles. And I also have these two icons here, the chevron up and chevron down, which I got from Phosphor Icons. And I know I always show this website, but you don't need to get the icons directly from their website. If you prefer, they do have a community Figma file, so you can get the icons from there as well. Now we can get started on our accordion. The first thing I'm going to do is create a text layer. And for this one, I'm going to write accordion title. You can also zoom in. And I'm going to change the font size to 16 and set it to semi-bold and change the color to gray 700. From here, I'm going to do Shift-A to add auto layout. And I don't want any horizontal padding, but we do want the vertical to be around 32 pixels. And then another thing I'm going to do is add a white fill. And I'm going to add a bottom border. And for the color, we'll use gray 200. And this is going to be our collapse state. So the last thing that I'm going to add is the icon. And we'll just place it inside here and just make sure that it's centered. Next, I'm going to modify the spacing to always be 24 pixels. And another thing that I want to do is right now, if I were to resize this item, the icon does not stick to the right. But one way that I can fix it is set the text to fill the container. And now it works. Another thing that I'm going to do is change this icon to also be gray 700. And that's our first accordion variant. This one is collapsed. We're not going to turn them into components just yet, and instead we're going to make the expanded state. So what I'm going to do is make a copy. And for this one, the first thing, I'm going to replace the icon with caret up. And then another thing I'm going to do is make another copy. This one is going to be our accordion panel. And for this one, we don't need an icon. And we're also going to modify it to be regular font weight. And we'll keep the text color as gray 700. We're also going to select both of this, and I'll remove the border bottom. And now we can combine them together into auto layout and change the spacing to 0. And we're going to add the bottom stroke. It's going to be 200. And the reason you can see it now is because it's inside and we have the white fill set to both the panel and this button here. So what I'm going to do is once again select just these two separate layers and remove the white fill. And I'll set the white fill to the overall auto layout wrapper. So now we have our expanded and our collapse state. Actually, one more thing I'm going to do is currently the title and the panel or the content just feel way too far away from each other. So I'm going to remove the top padding from the panel. So from here, I'm going to select our collapsed and expanded states and remove them to accordion item. And then I'm going to go here and create a component set. And for our property, we'll call it expanded. And this one will be no, and this one will be yes. Now we can add our component interactions. So first I will do going from collapse to expanded state. And for this one, we want to make it smart animate. And we'll keep the easing function as is out. And then we also want to be able to go back. So same thing, smart animate and is out. So what we can do now is grab a couple instances of the accordion title, and I'll just keep it at 3 copies. And what I'm gonna do is maybe create a desktop frame and give it a fill of something other than white. And I'll place our frame inside here. One thing we can do is quickly test out. And so now we can test out our component interactions. I guess one more thing that I could do here is just predefine it. So I'm going to give it horizontal padding and maybe some vertical, give the fill to the overall list here. And one more thing we want to make sure is that right now when I resize, the accordions don't resize together with the overall list frame. So I'm going to set them to fill the container, and now they resize. Let's quickly test to see if they work or not. And now as you can see, even though that the collapse state is resized properly, when we change it to expand, you can see that it didn't resize as expected. So the way to fix it is we'll return to the component and again select both of this, the button and the panel, the separate layers, and we'll also set them to fill the container. And so now it works as expected for both states. Now we're going to test our component with some real data, and we're going to do the Google Sheets sync to help us do so. So accordions, I very often see them used in a frequently asked questions section of websites. One such website is Betterment. They have this section here. So I'm going to use their example to test my accordion. And using the Google Sheets sync plugin is very useful because it just allows you to very quickly sync all your data. So to demonstrate, the first thing that you need to do is create a Google Sheets file. And you also want to make sure that anyone with a link can view it. Otherwise, the plugin will not be able to read the data. And the next thing, so for our accordion, I only really need 2 columns. I need something for the title and I need something for the panel. So that's why I have only 2 columns here. And I'm only going to test it with just 3 accordion items, but obviously you can have more. So what I did here, I have 1 column called title and 1 column called content. And I put the questions under the title column and I put the content under the content column. And what I need to do here is I actually need to update this text layers to match what I have in my columns. So for the accordion title, I'm going to rename this to pound and title. And you have to include the pound because that's how the plugin will find this text layers. So I'll rename this. And then the panel, we're going to rename to pound content. And also while we're here, I'm just going to change this frame name to accordion button and this one to accordion panel. Now let's see if this works. So first I'm going to select all of our items here and I'll set them to expanded. Now we can go ahead and go to our plugin section and run the Google Sheets sync. So let's wait for it to open and return to the file here, copy the link and paste the link in here. And here's our data. And right away, we can see that there are a couple things we can improve here. So first, as you can see right now, the content extends pretty much all the way down and it kind of feels too wide, and maybe it would be nice if it stopped before our icon here. So what we can do is return to our main component and we'll give it a right padding of maybe 56. So now it's more narrow. Another thing that we could do is change the line height to maybe 160. Just so it's easier to read the paragraphs. We can also update line height for the titles. As you can see here, it's a little too close. So I'll return back to our component. And maybe we'll do something like 140. And lastly, this is not really about the component, but it's more how I formatted and imported the data from the Google Sheets. As you can see, I have here some line breaks and they're here as well, but that's obviously not how it's supposed to be. So I'm going to remove this and set the actual paragraph breaks. And again, we can do it from our component here. And maybe I'll just do 16. And now as you can see, we don't have like an actual line break. It's a proper paragraph break. So that's something to keep in mind. And yeah, it's one thing if you use the plugin for importing large formatted blocks of text, there might be some formatting adjustments that you need to do. Now let's just take a look at our updated accordion list in the prototype view, just so that we can make sure that it works exactly as we expect it to. That's it for the accordion component. There are, however, a couple things that I wanted to go over, mainly a couple mistakes that might happen and which you will of course catch if you test the component. But this is something that I ran into as I was implementing this component, so just want to make sure that you are aware of it as well. The first thing is making sure that the accordion panel is set to fill the container, because if it's set to the default, which is hug contents, what's going to happen is your text will start overflowing like this, and you don't want that to happen. So just make sure that it's set to fill the container. Here you go. Another thing is, why did I not do the space in between for the accordion title? So what we can do is, let's say I set this to hug contents and do space in between. So what's going to happen is something like this, where again we'll have text overflowing and it's either getting too close to the icon or it's overlapping with it. And again, also something that we don't want to happen. So let's set this one back to fill. And the very last thing, if you remember at the beginning, I removed the 32 pixel top padding from the accordion panel. But actually the first thing when I was testing it, I was like, oh, maybe I can just kind of like keep it even and keep 16 pixel at the top here and just bring this down to 16 pixels. And with that, you can definitely see that the component still works and looks fine. But the thing is, if I were to actually implement this component in code, it would make it slightly more difficult to do so, because then I would have had to figure out, okay, like when the state is open, I want the bottom padding of the button to be 16 pixels, and when it's closed, I want it to be 32 pixels. And it's not really a big deal, but wherever possible, I do try to make the implementation of the component as easy as it can be. And so yeah, that's it for the accordion component. This one is definitely very simple. It just has the text as the title and text as the content. If you would like to see something more advanced, or if you have an example of a specific accordion that you would like to see implemented, please let me know and I would love to do that. I will leave the link to this Figma file in the description, as well as all the resources and plugins that I mentioned here. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.